we're going to jump to this actually. Let's see, where is it? Where Hillary Clinton decided. There we go. Hillary Clinton, from the post-millennial, Hillary Clinton would nominate Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize if he ends Ukraine-Russia war without Ukraine having to cede territory. If Donald Trump negotiates an end to Putin's war on Ukraine without Ukraine having to cede territory, I'll nominate him for a Nobel Peace Prize myself.
He gets under her skin so bad.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he is in her head rent-free.
Yeah.
24/7, all the time.
Did they know each other back in the day?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
they knew each other well.
She went to his wedding.
Yeah.
Really?
Did she?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were friendly because before Donald Trump got into politics, Donald Trump would donate money to everybody because he wanted to be friends with everybody, and he also wanted to be able to get in touch with.
Everyone loved him back then.
Yeah, everyone did, and so he would just say, like, he invited the Clintons to him and Melania's wedding, and Hillary Clinton said, "Oh yeah, of course we went. He's a ton of fun." Everybody that meets Donald Trump and talks to him, unless they go in intending to hate him and they're rude and they are looking to start a fight with him, everybody comes away and they're just like, "All right, the guy's nice. He's great. He's funny." He's just.
That's what Bill Maher said. I think he went into his meeting thinking he was going to hate him too.
He's a charismatic guy. Look, and for the most part, to be honest with you, when you meet people that are that well-known in politics and that well-known just overall, they do have a really amazing amount of charisma. I remember when I met, what's his name? The guy that runs The Blaze.
Glenn Beck.
Glenn Beck. I met Glenn Beck, and I was like, okay, I understand why this dude is like the big guy at what's it called? He's just very charismatic. When he talks to you, you feel like he's gonna remember you next time. You're the only person, and you hear people talk about Bill Clinton like that all the time. When they would meet Bill Clinton,
Obama too.
Obama, yeah. When you meet these guys, they have the ability to make you feel like you're the only person in the room, and to remember small things about you if you've met them, if they've met you twice. That's something that politicians in Western countries particularly have. That's part of why they end up in positions of high positions in government. And it'll be the same thing with people that are, senators a lot of time. You probably don't see it as much with all Congress people because there's so many Congress people. But, we were talking last night about the people in Texas and whether or not the Democrats that are looking to make hay about what's going on in Texas, if they can get arrested, like, are they going to be able to actually capitalize on that? And do they have the political talent to really make something of it? Because, of course, they want to get arrested. Of course, they want to get picked up and get on, make social media posts about it, get on TV and stuff. But only certain people, the really politically talented, could take that opportunity and turn it into something that gets them from not only being a state representative, but gets them onto the national stage and gives them influence nationally. And it's not easy you can't fake.
If you don't do it the right way, you could just get arrested and that could be the end of your career.
Well, I mean,
you got a mugshot, now you have a record and you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's not the end of the career, it's like you won't be able to capitalize on it. It's really being able to take the attention that you're getting from that and turn it into something tangible. And that's what the really politically talented people can do. And that's why someone like Donald Trump, I mean, he was a massive star beforehand, but the reason he was a massive star is because he's got that very deep political talent that's really, it's part of his personality. He's got the ability to just charm people's pants off. Yeah. So that's why Hillary Clinton wanted to go to his wedding. But anyways, from the post-millennial, in a podcast appearance on Friday, Hillary Clinton said that she would nominate President Donald Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize if he brings an end to the war between Russia and Ukraine without Ukraine having to cede any territory to its eastern neighbor. Clinton told the Raging Moderate podcast, "I understand from everything I've read, he very much would like to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. Honestly, if he could bring about the end to this terrible war where Putin is the aggressor, invading a neighbor country, trying to change the borders, if he could end it without putting Ukraine in a position where it had to concede its territory to the aggressor, had to, in a way, validate Putin's version of Greater Russia, but instead could really stand up to Putin, something we haven't seen, but maybe this is the opportunity to make it clear that there must be a ceasefire, there will be no exchange of territory, and that over a period of time, Putin should actually withdraw from the territory he seized in order to demonstrate his good faith efforts, let us say, not to threaten European security. If we could pull that off, if President Trump were the architect of that, I'd nominate him for a Nobel Peace Prize." Now, I think that she's alluding to also Crimea. I don't imagine that she would. I can't imagine her actually nominating him. I would
She
love.
just wants to see him fail.
Yeah. I mean, you were saying she's got it in for him. And look, she thought that she was going to walk into the office of the president without a problem. She thought up till probably 10 p.m. on November 6th, 2016, she thought that was going to happen. So when it turns out that it wasn't, I can understand where her deep, deep hatred of the man comes from. But that doesn't change the fact that she really hates him and she doesn't want to see anything good happen for him. So I would love to see her have to make this, like, throw his name into the hat.
Haven't they already ceded land though?
Yeah.
Well, in Crimea, yeah, they ceded Crimea.
I just feel like it's a non-starter though. Like, can
of course,
she not?
that's why she's saying it. She doesn't want to do it.
Right.
Yeah, it's a 0% chance of happening. Well, it's never zero. There's always a chance that alien monkeys are going to fall down out of the sky, but they already own the territory. I mean, they de facto control it, own it, whatever you want to call it. They control it. Asking them to leave their own territory. I mean, once you control land and it's yours, it's yours.
And not
so
only-
asking
Unless
someone asking you to
Putin
leave
really
your,
wants him to
your
get a
land.
peace deal.
Like, why would I leave my land? It's mine.
And not only that, it's Russian speakers in Crimea now. Like one of the things that the arguments that Putin made about when he moved into Crimea was like, look, these are Russian people. These are Russians. They speak Russian. They're Russian people. They've actually had votes. Now, some people, the argument that the people in like NATO and in Europe say is like, they're like, well, Putin actually started moving Russian speakers in there and put the people in there so that and skewed the votes so that way he could justify taking it. Now, I don't know the truth of that. I don't know if it was actually something that Putin planned. You heard stories, I don't know if you remember, but back in 2013 or 14, you heard little green men was a phrase that you heard a lot. There were dudes that were in military garb, but they didn't have any identifying patches. They had no insignia. They were basically paramilitaries carrying out paramilitary operations, but they weren't aligned with anyone. Right. So there was rumors of Russia planning this. And so it could be that was the case, but it doesn't change the fact that it's been part of Russia now for over a decade. And I think that when the U.S. went to Crimea when the whole world went to Crimea for the Olympics, I think that kind of sealed the deal. If the international community really didn't want to acknowledge that Crimea was part of Russia, they would have stayed away from the Olympics. They'd have all boycotted and said, we're not going. You stole this land from the Ukraine, so we're not going to validate it by going to the Olympics. But that ship has sailed, right? Like the U.S. and all of the internet, the whole international community went to Crimea. They held the Olympics there. They validated it. So I can't imagine any way that anyone could possibly think Crimea would be going back to Russia. And I don't think that Russia's going to give up the Donbass either.
No, I think they're trying to do this just to tarnish the record that Donald has so far. They're just trying to make it so that all the victories he's had recently are just going to seem like nothing. Why? Because he was unable to save Ukraine. He wasn't unable to get all the land back to Ukraine, so they can say, okay, well, he didn't end the war in Congo. He didn't end the war between Thailand and Cambodia. He had nothing. It's like they're just trying to use it to besmirch his name. And of course, they're going to set this crazy goal pie in the sky that no one can reach.
Yep.
He wants
classic.
I looked up. I was like, what are Putin's demands? Because I asked this question a couple weeks ago. No one really knew. I think that's by design from our media, because they're not that extreme. His demands, he has 6. 2 of them in particular are that he wants the land, obviously east of the Donbass and the Crimea and the freeways, but he wants guarantee on paper that they're not going to put Ukraine in NATO and Ukraine's not going to seek NATO. They want Ukraine to be a neutral territory. It's neither controlled by the right or the left, whatever you want to call it, the east or the west.
Do you believe that, though? Because the counter argument to that is if Putin if Putin is allowed to stay in the Donbass and the Russians take that land, then it becomes a staging area for Putin to actually build up troops, build military bases, and then later on take more of Ukraine. Because the argument that people that are very anti-Russia have is they're saying, look, he's going to eventually take all of Ukraine. He may not take it all right away. He probably thought he could, but if he could have taken Ukraine when he first invaded, gone all the way to Kiev and taken the whole country, he would have. Now, there are people that'll make the argument, oh, and then he's going to go for Poland, then he's going to go for NATO. I don't believe that at all.
I
Yeah.
don't think he's going to do
I don't think that he wants that smoke, honestly. I don't think that he wants to go after Poland. There could be an argument that he wants to take, or there is an argument that he wants to take back the former Soviet states.
Yeah, I think that's
So,
kind of what, like you were saying with this Tucker interview way back. I think it seemed like he came away wanting to just have what he originally had back in the day.
But remember, some of those states are now part of NATO.
Yeah.
So I don't think that he's willing to take on NATO, especially seeing how badly, honestly, I mean, all things considered, how badly he's performed in Ukraine. Ukraine is not a heavily armed country. It took a lot of NATO sending weapons and military assets and money to Ukraine for them to stop him. And I think that people expected more people anticipated more out of Russia's military capability. Now, he could activate more troops, and I don't think that it's something it's a situation where Russia is totally, a paper tiger. But if you look at the situation, Russia's not going to take on NATO. Russia doesn't want to fight the United States. The only thing Russia has is nuclear weapons, right? They do have nukes, but when it comes to conventional war, they don't want to fight the U.S. because the U.S. would stomp a mud hole in them.
Well, not after that introduction into the meeting, in that meeting that they had.
Well, I mean,
bomber, so.
Look, the United States, if they wanted to, it's likely they could fly B-2 bombers right over Moscow, and they would never know. Right? It's likely that Moscow would have no way to stop them. Mm-hmm. It's not something I want to test.
Don't want that.
No, we don't want that. I don't want to test it. But the idea that Russia's going to take on NATO so that way they can get Poland, I think that's far-fetched. And I think that that's just an argument to get people afraid. But it is likely that they would use the Donbass as a staging area to take more of Ukraine in 5-10 years.
Well, that likely, I don't know. Potentially, yes, for sure. It'd be like if you have a neighbor and you're like, well, why would I improve my neighbor's quality of life? It's just going to make him more able to destroy me later. And you're like, well, my neighbor's not going to destroy me. So maybe if he
owned your house.
What's that?
Unless he once owned your house.
Unless he wants my territory east of my river and then control into the Donbass. So it's really a state of mind. Do you trust it or not? Are you willing to empower your neighbor with the potential threat that they're going to use that power to destroy you later? I don't know. This is the human conundrum through all space time. And we have civil society where you empower your neighbor. And then we have military society where you make sure that you're the strongest of all, whether that means you got to knock them down a peg or lift yourself up. It's irrelevant in the military almost, not totally, but you still got to be careful about doing excess damage. Anyway, civil society, trust. If we really want to make peace, then we're going to have to trust, because I mean, I'm also like a common sense. There's no other way. They own the territory. What are you going to do? Yeah. Unless we did a counter invasion and lost hundreds of thousands of, then we're the attackers going into the defensive entrenchments. And it's like, dude,
we don't want that.
No, I'd rather be allies and buy cheaper.
Protesters apparently want that, but
what's that?
The protesters apparently want that, but common sense people don't want that.
People that are like, just take it back. I'm like, have you been to a front line of a military in a trench in the with the artillery going off?
You only see the movies.
And you don't get the artillery doesn't. Have you ever heard a building get demolished next to you? Like the vibration in your gut that will change you forever just from that. For these dudes that are in there for months at a time. Fortunately, we've kind of evolved away from trench warfare. Now we've got drone warfare.
No, they haven't evolved away from trench warfare at all.
Shelling people in trenches.
There is still, that's the majority of what's going on
and it rains
in Ukraine right now.
Boots get all wet. You
trench
get trench foot.
Trench warfare.
Leg amputated.
That's why they don't. That's why the lines haven't moved. Because trench warfare is brutal, and that's exactly what's going on.
They go underground.
Yes, of course there are drones now, but it does change the battlefield. But trench warfare is still the combat method of the day.
It's impressive that. I mean, I'm still thinking in World War I and II terms that the Russians actually were able to take that much territory. But I guess we have modern airplanes and things that can take out the back lines.
Well, not only that, Russia has far more military capability than Ukraine. And Ukraine doesn't have a significant air force.
And Russia was probably preparing to do this for a while.
I mean, I'm sure they
the
were.
invasion.
They put up they started massing military assets on the border, and no one thought that Russia was actually, or a lot of people were like, Russia's not going to go in. They wouldn't go into Ukraine. There's no way they would. But
And when Biden was like, "Surge the border," Putin was like, "Oh, he's talking to me. It's time for my invasion."
Well, so
Yeah.
can you just walk a military exercise into someone else's country and have it not be an attack too? Because that was like originally what he was saying. Like, that's kind of weird.
In the Crimea, they marched in.
Yeah. Well, no,
No.
just were they? I forgot exactly where.
I think
2022 when they
Yeah.
actually started the
he
invasion.
expected that they were going to be like, "We welcome you as heroes and liberators," and then they opened the doors, and I think that's what he wanted. He was trying to create that narrative with people.
I don't know. He like I said, he was looking to take the whole country. He was trying to get to Kiev.
Did he say that? I don't
There was an actual attack there was a convoy of military vehicles that were made a run for Kiev. They were looking to take Kiev. They were looking to take the whole country because he does want to take the country overall, and that's part of why the argument against allowing them to stay in the areas that they've taken is a strong argument. It's part of why it's such a compelling argument, because it is likely that he will just try to take another bite once things cool off a little.
And like, if they neutralize Ukraine and it truly becomes a neutral territory, what would that be? What would that
What do you mean neutralize?
Like, they want it to be neutral. Like Spain was neutral in World War II,
That's what
no
Putin
allegiance.
wants?
Putin wants Ukraine to be a neutral territory as part of his demands, meaning it's not beholden to
I think it just
NATO.
means no NATO. Yeah.
Yeah, or Russian influence. But like, how do you guarantee that's actually happening? Because there's still going to be massive influence underneath the surface if they say, okay.
I mean, it is, as long as, because of the location, Ukraine is going to have either influence by the East, by Western countries, or influence by Russia. Like, that's just kind of the way that it's going to be. And the reason Russia doesn't want NATO in Ukraine is because, Putin wants to take more of the country.
Is there like any deal that's going to make him happy, or is he just going to?
Personally, I think that what he'll do, or what he might do, and I can't predict what the guy's going to do. I'm not nearly educated enough to do that. Yeah. But what he might do is just say, okay, I'll make a deal for this area here and let us stay here, and then we'll stop fighting. There will be a ceasefire, and then it'll be a couple years.
And then he'll try again.
That's what he did with Crimea.
Yeah.
He took Crimea, then a couple years, then 8-9 years later, when the situation was favorable, when we had a president that wouldn't fight back, that he looked at as weak.
A houseplant.
Like you said earlier, exactly. When Joe Biden was the president, when he thought that he could get away with it, he's like, all right, well, now's the time. And he went in. Who the president is does matter, and what the president says does matter. There's a lot of people that blame the United States for Russia taking Crimea. And you can actually go back to when Barack Obama met with Medvedev and said, tell Vladimir that I've got, this is I think in 2012, tell Vladimir that I will have much more flexibility after my election. And what Vladimir Putin and what Medvedev heard was, you can invade and take Crimea after my election, so that way I don't have to worry about the political repercussions. I won't fight you. We won't have significant problems, or you won't see significant resistance from the U.S. and NATO if you go in after I'm reelected. Just don't make this problem for me before my election. Now, that was naivete on President Obama's part. He thought that, everybody wants the same thing, and everybody can just get along and be happy, and he'll understand that I'm just saying, don't do this now, and we'll talk about it more later or whatever. But what Putin heard was, don't go in until after I get reelected. And that's exactly what happened. So that was, some people would say that was the president of the United States giving Vladimir Putin the green light to do it. And consequently, he did. So it does matter who the president is, and it does matter how you deal with people like Putin, because it is true that Putin is a warmonger. He does kill people that criticize him. Like he shot a missile at the leader of the Wagner group and blew his helicopter out of the sky because he thought there was a coup going to be a coup against him. That's how things are done in Russia. So the idea that things in Russia are done the same way that they're done in the United States is a gross misunderstanding of how things are done, or of the reality of the situation. So
I was thinking about Putin, Nayib Bukele, they just in El Salvador, they just repealed presidential term limits. So now he can be president for life. Bukele can.
Really?
Yeah, they did that a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you guys have reported on it. It's pretty stark news, to be honest. Yay, hero Bukele, but now he's the dictator. So the thing
no. He's not a dictator because because he can be elected,
right,
doesn't mean he will be reelected.
And just because he's president doesn't mean he's influencing the elections, but he can. Doesn't mean he is.
Well, why do you think
that? What's that?
Why do you think that he's? I mean, he's got an approval rate of something like 80% because he's cleaned up the country and made it safe for people. I mean, if he gets reelected, it will likely be a legitimate reelection.
Exactly, and I think they like him and they will. And the problem is, I think he looks around Bukele and he's like, all right, no one is going to be able to do this like me. If I give this control over to the next president, he's going to fuck this up. All these things are going to fall apart. Everything I've worked for is going to fail. I think Putin has that same mindset. After he left office in like 2003 or 4 or something.
Well, he was the prime minister.
Yeah, he was done. And then all of a sudden it was like he couldn't let go.
He was the prime minister. He wasn't done. He just went into a different,
and he made his number 2 guy the number 1,
yeah,
and then they switched positions.
And then they switched, yeah.
But I got this feeling that it was like he doesn't want to let go because he thinks the next guy's going to screw it all up. And until he sees someone competent that he believes can do it better than him or as good, he's just gripping and
it's my sense that it's more he's looking to retain power than actually worried about who the successor would be.
Because he'll get slaughtered as soon as he's out of power. And
that's a possibility for sure.
I think that he just wants to stay in power. I think he's going to stay in. He's a dictator and he's going to stay in power until he dies.
Also interesting, my mom just texted me and said Russia took Crimea on Clinton and Obama watch. So
yeah. I mean, Obama was the president.
Yes.
Like we said, Obama kind of some would argue that Obama gave him the green light. So